Hi, welcome. I'm Erin.
And I'm Jenny, and we're the co-founders and co-owners of Unlocking Potential. And all of our programs at Unlocking Potential are really designed to be as effective, efficient, and enjoyable even as possible. So this video that you're about to see is really designed to be valuable for you as you go along this test preparation journey.
Okay, so we have a lot to cover, so let's get started.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jenny Kephart, and I am a co-owner of Unlocking Potential and also the Director of Instruction.
Hi, everybody. I'm Erin Lawrence. I'm also co-owner of Unlocking Potential, and I head up the business development and marketing.
So today, after all of the experience that we've had with test prep and academics in general, we are going to share with you our proven formula for raising your child's ISEE scores in 6 months or less.
So we all know that the end goal is to raise the ISEE scores. But what if you could actually do this with ease? Have you ever wondered what it would be like to be confident about your child's future, to see your child actually succeed with ease and not be super stressed out about the test they're taking, and to know that your child has more opportunities open to them than ever before?
And I think we all want that, on our side and on your side. So today, in our time here together, you're going to discover, first of all, the real reason why great students who are straight A students and even really great test takers, that these students still fail the ISEE every single year. You're going to learn our formula for raising ISEE scores in 6 months or less. And also, we're going to touch on the 4 mistakes that a lot of parents make. Well-meaning, well-intentioned parents, even very educated parents make that cause their child to just not be prepared for the ISEE in the way that they possibly could be. And today we promise you 2 things by the time we're finished. First of all, that you're going to have clarity. You're going to know how to prepare. We're going to give you a lot of information today about what makes up a good preparation program. And also, you're going to have access directly to the resources that you need. So you'll know exactly what's next and what steps you need to take in order to prepare with real confidence. So here's how to get the most value out of today. We want this time to be really valuable for you. So we're going to eliminate all of those distractions, okay? So for our time here together, you want to put away those cell phones, turn off the text messages, make sure that your family is all taken care of and tended to, and pets, anything that could get in the way. Definitely, take out a pen and paper or some kind of electronic device, whatever you use for notes. Take notes on this so that you can really, remember and retain all the things that you need to know. And also, you're going to apply every step to your own situation. Your child has very specific needs, and you want to really imagine your child through each and every step of our time here together. And when you finish watching this presentation, by watching the whole presentation, just as our little gift to you here, we're going to give you a code for 10% off any online purchase. That's Unlocking Potential Online. And we'll tell you more about some of those things if you'd like to take advantage of them later. So, who are we? Who are these people talking to you here today? Between the 2 of us, we do have a lot of experience, over 20 years combined experience. That makes me feel old every time we talk about that, doesn't it? We have been teaching students from every single grade level. So personally, and this is Jenny again here, I started out as a behaviorist for children with autism about 10 years ago, and through my experience, that's put me in several different classrooms, all the way from preschool through high school. I've learned a lot about how to meet students at every level with all different kinds of needs. And then I began doing test prep, starting with the SAT. a little bit after that, probably about 7 years ago. And in that time, this past 7 years, I have tutored so many different tests, obviously the SAT, a lot of these little things that you see down here, ISEE, SSAT, HSPT, ACT, many, many different letters and acronyms here that you may or may not be familiar with.
So I'm Erin. I'm the one at the bottom. You can see me there. So my background is as a credentialed teacher. So I started off working at LAUSD, and I worked there for about 8 years, working in elementary school. And then I started teaching high school, and I taught high school for about 5 years. Actually, I still teach over the summer when I can. But most of the time during the school year, I work as an educational consultant. And basically what that means is I'm in and out of different schools every day, public schools and private schools, and I help the schools with their student achievement. So I work with principals, I work with teachers, I put on trainings for them, and I really help them to move their students above where they're already at. And I think what I really like about that and what I like about our business is that we get to affect change with students, and we actually get to hear back from students and parents, and that's always the funnest part.
I know, it really is the best part. This one, I can just think of one student this past year that we did tutoring with, and we got, the first email from mom, how nervous she was. He just took his test, and, we'll see how he does. And then, a couple weeks later, we got admission from the first school, and we got into the first school. And then we got another email, oh my gosh, he got into the next 2 schools. And, by the end of it, he'd gotten into all 4 schools he applied to. And there's just nothing like the experience that we've really impacted students and had them get into the most competitive schools and, just the things that they dreamed about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just want to say something really quick. Mm-hmm. My favorite experience was actually talking to a student who had applied to a lot of different schools, and she just found out she got in, and just the excitement on her face about what was next, that was priceless for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's just a little bit about kind of who we are, so our background and who's talking to you here. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about my personal history and why test prep has become kind of this mission of mine, and something that I'm actually really passionate about. And it all started back many years ago when I was a high school student. And we were looking at getting into college. Now, I had over a 4.0 GPA. I was in all the honors classes. I was a great test taker. I would score usually in the 95th and up percentile on all of my state standardized tests. So I wasn't really worried about the SAT. I wasn't worried about the standardized tests because I knew I was a great test taker. I knew I was a good student. So I remember walking in to this little, auditorium room where you have the tiny little desks that, you can barely fit a piece of paper on, and, my Scantron and my number 2 pencils and all of that. And I sit down and I open up the SAT test booklet, and I was just completely baffled. I had no idea. I had not seen the vocabulary before. The math was just not, presented in the way that I was used to seeing. And I was just so taken aback by what was this test, and it was really kind of this devastating time, for as a high schooler, that experience taught me a couple things, and not just my own experience, but then my experience of seeing several different students go through the same thing, really great smart test takers going through the same kinds of situations, doing a great, great at tests, great in school, but then not being prepared for the standardized tests. So what I've learned from my own experience and the experience of working with other similar students is, first of all, why these smart kids can just blow it when it comes to standardized tests. I also learned the components of effective test taking, which we're going to share with you our method later. What does it take to be fully prepared? And also that each and every student, no matter the highest performing student or lowest performing student, really does need the specific strategies and skills for the particular test that he or she is taking. Just being smart isn't enough, and even being a good test taker isn't enough. There are specific things for every single different test that are going to help a child to succeed on that test. So, test prep can, I think, be one of the most stressful experiences for families, just with all the families that we talk to. And really our goal here is that the experience of test prep is not a terrible one, but actually a great experience. This family, shared with us that using Unlocking Potential was an ideal experience that got our daughter into the middle school she coveted most. We highly recommend this route for anyone preparing for the ISEE or a similar standardized test. And again, that's just our goal here, and what we want to do through this presentation is give you a little bit more confidence and a better idea of what you're going into so you can have as good of a test preparation experience as possible. So let's start out with, how is the ISEE different from other tests? Again, why, I told you my particular story and that other similar smart students have had these experiences, but why is that? So here's a little bit of a breakdown of that. So if we start up at the top here of the standard math problem, okay, this was taken from a 5th grade math book. So students that are preparing more for like the middle level ISEE, this is the kind of things that they should have been learning already. And this question says here, which of the following is a multiple of 16? And we have answer choices, 0, 40, 80, and 90. Pretty much any student would be able to answer this. They would look and they'd say, okay, well, 16, it's not 0, it's not 40, and they, might take them a little bit of calculation to realize that 16 times 5 equals 80. So the answer choice here would be C, 80. Pretty straightforward, right? And again, this is how students are used to learning and used to seeing a concept like this tested. But the ISEE isn't quite the same. So even though a student that would know exactly how to calculate this, let's look at how that same exact concept is tested on the ISEE. So if you look here below, the ISEE problem, 16 times m equals A0. And then it says, in the multiplication problems shown above, if A and m represent distinct positive integers, which of the following is the value of A? Now, first of all, there are plenty of students that might know what distinct positive integers are, but they might not even be familiar with that term. So even just right there, you can see in there, this is 5th and 6th grade students. The terminology, distinct positive integers, already in and of itself can be intimidating. Some of you, even out there, parents, might be asking yourself, what does this problem even mean? Why is there an M in it and an A? And it just might seem a little confusing, especially for a student. Think about what a student who is in 5th or 6th grade is thinking when they see this problem. But when we break down this problem for students, what we show them is, hey, you know what multiples of 16 are, right? All this problem is saying is that 16 times some whole number equals some whole number that starts with a number and ends with a 0. So if you plug in for A, each of the answer choices below, you're going to look at that and know, oh, well, 0 isn't a multiple of 16, so A can't be right. B, 40 isn't a multiple of 16, so B can't be right. C, 80, well, actually that is a multiple of 16. Okay, so that's a possible answer. And then D, 90 isn't a multiple of 16. So your answer, again, is C. And that's the kind of problem that students, the second that you walk through it with them and you take a look at that with them and explain the approach, they have the content, they just need to know the approach. So I hope that this example shows you a little bit about why, again, those kind of smart students who know the concepts just need a little bit of guidance in order to be able to use what they know to do well on the ISEE. So another important part, besides just kind of having those tools and those strategies and the exposure to the ISEE content, is practice. Right? We've all heard practice makes perfect. That's probably not new to you. But it's not just one type of practice. In our time that we've been developing our curriculum here, we've gone through a lot of different test prep books from some of the biggest publishers, and what we've seen is that although all of them will include practice, they might not all be practicing all the right things, because there's certain types of practice that are more effective than others. If you go out and you're just practicing one thing, but you're not practicing it well, then you're not going to do as well. So let's look at the kinds of practice that are really important here. First of all, you have to have the practice with each and every skill. This should be very obvious. You need to have practice with solving variable expressions, or practice with sentence completion questions and how to approach that. That, again, is kind of the obvious thing that pretty much everybody would agree on. But you also need to practice the actual ISEE question types, not just a normal sentence completion question or a reading comprehension question, but actually at the appropriate difficulty level. Meaning, there are some of the test prep books out there that don't necessarily test the problems as hard as they are. So they'll give really easy examples of, this is how you solve, this is how you solve a variable expression, or this is what a reading comprehension passage looks like. But those passages aren't necessarily as easy or as hard, or I should say the same difficulty level as they are on the ISEE. So the right difficulty level is crucial.
Yeah, I just want to say something there with my, just use SAT as an example again. When I was taking the SAT, I remember studying using one of those, big fat books with all the different practice sections and the content areas. And I didn't do that much better on my second time around on that section. And I didn't feel like I actually had the tools that I needed.
Yeah, it's just knowing the concepts. And again, even if they've been learned in school, all the time I interact with, middle school students, sometimes elementary school students that have learned these concepts. But knowing the concepts and then again, putting them into practice in the actual content makes a really big difference. So the next one is practicing the timing. It's these logistical aspects sometimes that actually make a really big difference. If a student might know everything, but it might take them twice as long to do a problem as they need to within the time limit. Mm-hmm. So just going through a book by yourself doesn't always have them practice the things that they need to know. And then sometimes once they go to do the timing, they're nervous. I mean, give anybody a time limit. I'm sure if you have a time limit, we ask you to do a task, but then we ask you to do the same task with the time limit, your anxiety level is going to increase, maybe the ability to retain things. It just changes things. So practicing the test with the appropriate test timing is also really crucial. And this is like one of my, I can get up on a soapbox here, full-length practice tests. It is so important to sit down in an environment that is as close to the real testing environment as possible and practice the full test. Because where a student's at after 2.5 hours of sitting with a Scantron bubble sheet is very different from where they're at if they were to take, like one testing section at a time. So full-length practice tests in like a proctored environment it's really, really crucial. And so however you can create that environment or have that or take advantage of a full-length practice test, do it. That is, like, in my opinion, one of the number one best ways and most effective ways you can improve your score in practice.
So this next piece that we're going to talk about is a piece that's overlooked by, I haven't seen anybody address this piece. Attitude is so important, and you see it with your kids all the time when they don't want to do their homework or, they're struggling with something, they feel overwhelmed and they shut down. So attitude affects students' work and study habits, and what we teach them in our program is how to actually identify what those attitudes are and how to change them. And this really increases their capacity to learn and recall information, because when they're shut down, when they're overwhelmed, when they're nervous, they're not going to perform as well as they would if they feel relaxed and confident.
So let's talk a little bit about when we talked about that proven formula, the kind of 4-step formula. It's everything that we've just talked about, and now we're going to share with you our little acronym for that. So obviously the goal here is to pass the test, right? So we have developed what is called the PASS strategy, which is really like the 4 pillars of an effective program. That first pillar is practice, just like we talked about, and the most effective type of practice. Then there's attitude. How the student views themselves as a learner, how the student views each section of the test, what they think they're capable of, what they don't think they're capable of. Those things are really important to address. Obviously, testing strategies, not just overall testing strategies, which are important, but also strategies specific to the ISEE itself. And then also the skills. And again, you would never argue with, you got to learn the vocabulary, you need to learn how to, all the different geometry problems, how to calculate area, perimeter, all of those different isolated skills. And with all 4 of these aspects, if you really do think of them like 4 different pillars holding up a building, if just one of those pillars isn't strong, the whole building is going to be a little bit more shaky, a little bit weaker. But by strengthening each of these pillars, you can actually strengthen the entire test preparation process. And so any preparation method or pattern of study should address all 4 of these aspects. And, the goal, again, with your preparation process is that you should be totally satisfied, completely satisfied. This family, shared with us, we had a very positive experience with Unlocking Potential. Our son was admitted into all the schools he applied to, including the most selective ones. And the folks at Unlocking Potential played a big role. We were completely satisfied. And again, what we think is that test preparation, as much as it is about the student, it really impacts the entire family. And, our goal here today, again, is just that you have as good of an experience as possible. You learn as much that you can take into your preparation process. So we just want to remind you, when you sit at the end of this presentation, we are going to give you that code for 10% any up online purchase. Here's your little gift here, the little red bow. So definitely make sure you stick around for that. So we want to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that, families face. Now, you may already be very aware of some of these challenges. You might be right in the middle of that, like that goldfish right in midair there, or you may still be in the bowl, getting ready to jump and kind of taking a look. You haven't really dived in yet. But either way, we want to talk a little bit about some of the things that you are already facing or may face in the future. The first one is just confusion about the testing process. I mean, I know Erin, I'm sure would agree with me.
Definitely.
It took us like at least 3 years to really understand, like, what are all these, Stanine scores and scaled scores, and how do we do these conversions?
And the ISEE is a completely different test than other standardized tests, and I think that's what people don't understand. I think the biggest problem or challenge that families face is just not knowing how the whole process works.
It's true, and there are different the aspects of the process, and it's so important to have somebody to just be able to guide you, or just to be able to let you know, yeah, we totally understand it's confusing, and that and are prepared to deal with it. Because the second you're prepared, the logistical information, and you can take that on and deal with that. Secondly, it's just making the right choice. Like how there's so many multiple ways to prepare for any kind of test. So what's the best way? Should I be at home? Should I try to do this on my own? Should we use one particular company? And even once we get a company, how do we know that this tutor is the best? Or how do we know that this instructor really knows what they're doing? So making the right choice, and just like the possible anxiety that you may feel, given that this is a kind of a big decision, that you're facing. And then once you even start the program, how do you know if it's effective? How do you know what's what's getting in? How do you know where there might still be holes in the kind of learning of it, and where you really need to focus your time and energy? The cost of it. This can be a costly process, and you already may be paying a lot for private school education, and now it's just kind of one more financial burden.
Yeah, and really wanting to know that you're getting the value
Yes.
for the money that you're spending. I think that's the most important consideration.
Absolutely, because there are companies all over the place that range from, you could hire someone off Craigslist that you don't know for, however much an hour, a college student or your next door neighbor or something like that. Or you could hire, there's these people that charge I have seen it, I don't know if you've seen it, Erin, like $1,000 an hour. Like, I was like,
No,
I should charge that. Come on.
I haven't seen that. That's ridiculous.
It's crazy. So, the bottom line though is, whatever it is that it is, just like you said, it's worth it to you, that you feel like you're getting the value that you deserve. And just testing anxiety, again, this is a family situation, not just the student. So the student in themselves may have testing anxiety, but as parents, we've encountered plenty of parents who also deal with testing anxiety as well. So